Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the World Report. I'm Scott Crowfoot. Today's show is dedicated to Andrew Jackson, which is the latest in the transformation of America. On today's report, the economy is starting to look a lot like '08. Despite record tax revenues, we are still running a $500 billion deficit. China continues to expand its military, and now Russian fighter jets are taunting the United States. I wonder if the president will draw another pink line. The Gitmo exodus continues as more detainees are released, and the rise of crimes by non-residents is moving up dramatically. Unveiling the mask behind the delegate game, it's almost inevitable Trump versus Clinton in November. And our history segment explores contested conventions. It's been going on for decades. We'll discuss the campaign of 1952. But now to our top stories. The Supreme Court rules that the Iranian Republic must pay $2 billion to terror victims. Meanwhile, the Saudis are hosting the president and threatening us over its own terror connections. Right on schedule is the implosion of Obamacare as United Healthcare announces it's hemorrhaging money. Joining us to discuss all of this and much more, economics blogger for USA Today Online and the World Report senior analyst, Maury Beschloss, whom you can follow at mbeschloss on Twitter. Maury, let's start with the implosion of Obamacare. We're going into the 6th year of this. People were predicting this right from the beginning, that this was a ruse to just finally get to. The president himself even said in a closed-door meeting, we can't get there overnight. It's going to take a couple decades, but we will get to single payer. United Healthcare is losing over $400 million this year. The sign-ups are less than half of what they were supposed to be. This was a prediction. It's coming true to fruition like we could have never even imagined.
Going strictly by the boards. I mean, it's exactly as we expected. I didn't think it would happen this fast, but it's happening. And the thing that really annoys me, there is no real emphasis about this in the media.
I agree. You focus on the circus with the delegates and the horse race and this and that.
That's exactly right.
We're not paying attention to anything that's really going on. But the Obamacare debacle is setting up a situation where the government's going to come in and solve the problem that it created, like the White Knight coming in the middle of the night to save the day.
Yeah, I think this late in his basic second term, it's going to be left to his successor. If, God forbid, it happens to be Hillary, I think she'll try to salvage the whole thing. If it's Trump, as I expect it could be and would be, I think he'll throw the whole thing out.
How do you throw the whole thing out, though? I mean, we've already gotten 6 years into this. I mean, there's a lot of web that's been woven already.
Well, I'm not an expert on healthcare and all the ramifications of it, but I think if it's a determined president, he can find a way to do it. Because otherwise, you're going to have what happened with United Healthcare that just threw it out.
Well, they're going to have a couple of exchanges, but the majority of them they're going to pull out of. When you've got half the people signing up than was expected or promised,
right.
and then
they don't admit to that, by the way.
And the people that are signing up are really the ones that need the help the most.
Of course.
So the kids that are healthy and don't feel like this is an expense they want to take on are not signing up for this. You've got Aetna, which is going to be next. Blue Cross Blue Shield, it just barely broke even last year.
You know what really still grinds me on this, and again, our media is as bad as the German media was under Hitler. I have to say that unqualifiedly. When Roosevelt came in during the Depression, he gave people jobs by infrastructure development and just setting up these ABC, BCDEE
work projects.
Yeah, work project administration, WPA, PWA, TVA, whatever. But it put people to work, and that's what everybody thought Obama would do. Remember when he first came in, he had a huge budget handed to him, money that he could use, and everybody thought he would use it for the same way that Roosevelt did. But instead, he and that Rahm Emanuel, who's getting his just desserts now and seeing Chicago collapse around him.
Bought off the unions, basically.
And his brother, who was, I guess, a doctor, wrote the whole thing up.
Ezekiel.
Yeah, Ezekiel, that's right. And the whole thing was a mess. And thank God by the time cap and trade, which was another blow-off that they were going to sell off to the people, That never passed for the simple reason that at the halftime of his first term, the Republicans took over thanks to the Tea Party. If it wasn't for the Tea Party, cap and trade would have passed too.
The Saudi government is involved in 9/11. The mask is starting to be unveiled on that situation. The Supreme Court has just ruled that Iran must pay, which I'm sure they won't, but...
Of course not. No, they already got $150 billion thanks to Mr. Obama.
So they need to pay $2 billion, is that it?
Yeah, which is...
money to the victims. Let's talk about Saudi Arabia now. How nervous should the Saudis be about this report? And do you think that it will become unveiled, that 28 pages?
It won't become unveiled as long as Obama is president. And if he succeeded by his chosen successor, Hillary Clinton, it'll never be unveiled.
Hasn't he already chosen sides in the Sunni Shia? I mean, it kind of looks like he aligns himself with more of the Shias than the Sunnis.
I don't think. I think he's doing exactly what he thinks he should be doing to bring America down to its knees. It doesn't make any difference whether it's Sunnis or Shias. We know he's a definite pro-Islamic. I mean, there's no question about that.
Well, he's on the record saying it even.
But the point is, I don't think basically it has to do with, it started off with that big speech he made in June 9th in Cairo about the Arab Spring, that democracies were going to be the saving grace of the Middle East, the Islamic Middle East. And what happened? Got rid of Mubarak, got rid of Gaddafi.
Okay, and the case to my point, at that same time, the Iranians were trying to do the exact same thing, and we did nothing to help them. A Shia country. So
no, I don't think, I dispute that. I don't think it was a matter of Shia or Sunni. It was anybody that was doing things that he wanted done, which was totally against what the American people or the United States wanted done. So whether it was the Shias or the Sunnis didn't make any difference.
And now when we talk about Saudi Arabia and the potential cover-up to 9/11, you have to go back to the Bush family.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
were very, very close to the Saudi family, the royal Saudi family.
Oh, they and their attorneys, they totally covered it up because, as we discussed before, the night before on September the 10th, they had a whole bunch of these guys staying at the Four Seasons Hotel in Washington. And in the middle of the night, a plane came from Saudi Arabia, landed at the airbase near Fort Myers, and took all the basic bin Laden family. They had a whole bunch of bin Ladens. They took them back before this whole situation broke. Now that by inference means that they knew what was going to happen on September 11th.
So does this mean that the people that questioned the 9/11 story, if you will, are becoming to be justified here?
I think it is justified.
The truthers, so to speak?
Oh, I think there's no question about it. Look, it's coming out, and anybody that has any kind of background is now telling you that the Saudis have been getting away with murder, quote unquote. I use that term loosely in the sense of saying what they've been getting away with. They are culturally depraved. Women can't drive cars. That's one of the minor things. But they are the ones that have paid off their ISIS types, called the Wahhabis. They are the worst. I mean, they are, if you're not a member of the Sunni Arabic persuasion, you should be either convert or you should be killed. So they get them out of the country. The blackmail is paid off by the Saudis, and they go into these other countries. I would say that the ISIS is primarily based on the Wahhabis from Saudi Arabia.
And we already know that 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudis.
Oh, that's another proof of the pudding.
And we decided to go in and attack Afghanistan, which was basically a bunch of tribesmen running around in sandals in the middle of the desert.
That was a way of getting the focus away from Saudi Arabia. And starting with Franklin Roosevelt, when he recognized Saudi Arabia as an independent, respectable state. Ever since then, the United States has coddled the Saudis. Even after they had that big embargo when Israel defeated Egypt and Syria when they were trying to get rid of them. and the United States under Nixon supported Israel and got if you recall that they call it the Yom Kippur War. At that particular time, what happened was that Israel was able to turn things around, and the Saudis were so furious that they chose to not ship any oil to the United States. And at that time,
and thus the embargo. And
as you say, as a kid, you remember that his car standing.
Yeah, my grandfather owned a Texaco station. I remember sitting there watching
huge
this all
lines
unfold
of
in front of me.
cars.
Yeah. China continues to expand. As I said earlier in the show, we are not focused on what's really happening right now. We're kind of being sidetracked by the dog and pony show, by the circus. China's expanding rapidly, its military in the South China Sea.
True.
Their watchdog, North Korea, is barking quite loud now.
They're using North Korea as,
of course they are.
To destabilize
antagonists.
South Korea and getting
Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Taiwan. And Russia is now provoking the United States.
That's the worst of all. I mean, there's no question about it. They are showing Saudi Arabia, if you depend on the United States to help you, even after we buzz their ships, which is really a slap in the face of any country, not even a powerful country like the United States was, any country would take a great exception and protest very loudly. We haven't even...
Do you see this president drawing a pink line anywhere?
I don't see him drawing a line anywhere, because he doesn't care for the United States of America. I make that statement again. If people haven't heard it, he is not interested in the good and welfare of the United States.
We only have 30 seconds left in this segment. What are the chances that one of those two countries provokes us and tries to push us into a war before the end of this term?
None. It won't happen. They're doing very well without the provocation of war.